Conifer, evergreen, deciduous, broadleafed evergreen, annual, perennial, pre-emergent, post-emergent, common name, botanical name, Latin name. Let's make some sense of some of these misunderstood terms. A lot of times you'll go to the garden center and they'll say, oh, it's a perennial, it's an annual. It's a biannual. Okay. An annual, like impatiens, begonias, marigolds, all those petunias that you see, they are annuals, and that they will grow where they're planted for a year. Now, to mess you up even further, sometimes they'll grow, they'll flower, they'll pollinate, their seeds will drop, and all of a sudden you're looking through, all of a sudden they're growing again the next year. Now, the original plant died and didn't come back. It's just those seeds that dropped, but you can't rely on that. These are a one season and done, and that's how you have to understand. An annual, once a year, annual is a one and done. Now, all right, perennials. Perennials come back every year from its root system. It may or may not die back to the ground, but it will regrow each spring or summer. So perennials, like, say, hostas are a reliable perennial. There's thyme. There is, let's see, go through the list. Heuchera, lavender. All of these are perennials. So it comes back every year. Now, this will mess you up. Foxglove, okay, evening primrose, Canterbury bells, sweet William, hollyhocks, forget-me-nots, evening primrose, Queen Anne's lace, and even black-eyed Susans are biennial. Biennial are plants that will grow for 2 years and then mainly die off. So if you have foxglove that you've planted, or you have hollyhocks and all of a sudden it's like, what's up? They're not here anymore. I planted them 2 years ago. They are biennials. You get 2 years and then they're done. Now, the good thing is, like, for instance, black-eyed Susans. Black-eyed Susans are like a weed. They seem to always be there, but they're regerminating from their seed that they drop. Those brown little centers of the plants, that little cone, like in coneflower, that they're regerminating from the seed and coming back. You'll get some of that in some of the other plants, especially like hollyhocks. But what happens is a bird will eat those and drop them, and all of a sudden you planted them out front and they're in the backyard. So there are some perennials, let's see, that are biennials. How can I explain this? They are sold as a perennial, but they are true biennials. So you get 2 years. So they come back after the second year, so that for that third year, they may not come back, because that's the type of plant that they are. So 2-year cycle, and then it's over. So just be aware. And again, their best information is from the tags. And it will say on there that it's biennial or biannual, and that the way that you get it past that 2-year cycle is where it will need to reseed. All right, here's a simple one, right? Evergreen versus deciduous. Broadleafed evergreen, conifer, semi-evergreen. Okay. And there are things that break the rules always. Deciduous conifers. What the heck does that mean? So what's a deciduous conifer? A larch is a deciduous conifer. A dawn redwood, and I was always so proud. Metazochoia glyptosteroides is the botanical name, and it's just fun to say. But that's a dawn redwood. Bald cypress. I have a bald cypress. It's getting enormous, and it's starting to break up not only by my pond, but it's also breaking up my sidewalk or my driveway, and I'm not very happy. But they will drop all of their needles and then it comes back like almost a deciduous tree would. Other evergreens, though, are going to be junipers, are going to be different varieties of hollies, whether it's Japanese hollies or American hollies or English hollies. There's boxwood. There's, of course, spruce and Douglas fir and all of the things that you associate like, oh, it's like a Christmas tree. It's like, yeah, they are all evergreen. Now, deciduous plants are trees and shrubs that lose their leaves over the winter. In studio, we have a hydrangea here on the table that will lose its leaves over the winter. Don't poo-poo deciduous plants. Too many people say, oh, no, I don't want it to lose its leaves. Look, you're running inside with your groceries and you're not paying attention to what your landscape is. A lot of times they'll have such dense stems along that plant that it doesn't really look like it doesn't have leaves. It's still full. Things like barberry, woodgelia, also ninebark. Excellent deciduous plants that should be used in the landscape. Deciduous plants are a fantastic way to bring color and texture into your landscape when used with evergreens. All right, here's another thing. Grafting. It's a grafted plant. I've got to say that probably means it's expensive. Now, there are grafted. It's a propagation technique used by horticulturists throughout the world. And it combines two or more plants and basically it kind of glues them together. The rootstock is going to be different than the top. And most roses are grafted. Now, there are some that are not, but a lot of times they may have issues with black spot and disease. Now, again, all of the fruit trees, dwarf conifers, there are even vegetables that are grafted. Like we've had grafted tomatoes. And the whole point is where you want the benefit of the top portion, which is also called the scion, but its natural root isn't as aggressive as what you're grafting it onto. And I have seen, I think it was in 2015, to where a guy took a fruit tree and had 20 different fruits grafted on the one rootstock. It's pretty amazing. I don't know if I'd want that, but it was cool. And that the fact that he was able to do that was pretty amazing. Now, again, when you see like rose trees, that's actually 3 different parts. The root is different from the center part, and then the head of the rose is actually something different. If you want to see a graft when you're in your local garden center and you see different trees, follow along the trunk to the root system, and usually you'll see like a knot that's there, and you can see it's a different color wood. You go up to the top portion, and then there's another knot. Japanese maples, always, the majority are all grafted. And it's an amazing thing that has really expanded our ability to use landscape plants in landscape. All right, going on to weeds. Pre-emergent versus post-emergent. Now, you might as well throw in there, it is selective and non-selective. Pre-emergent stops the weeds before they emerge. Pre-emergent. Post-emergent. The weeds come up, they're growing, actively growing, and they've post-emerged, so you need to use a type that will take care of it after. Like, for instance, if you have crabgrass in your lawn and it's already actively growing, you can't put a crabgrass preventer in because that is a pre-emergent. It's already up, so you missed it. So post-emergent is what you would have to use once it's growing. Selective and non-selective herbicides. Selective means like you can put it on your lawn and it will only select the weeds to kill. Like when you put down a weed and feed on your lawn, that it will select killing the weeds, but not the grass. Now, non-selective means it kills everything. So things like Roundup, things like you should be concerned when you're using vinegar, like an organic. It just is not selective. It's non-selective. It kills everything. Invasive. Invasive just means that it's too aggressive and it grows too fast. And that before we went on air, we were talking about wisteria. There are types of wisteria that are invasive plants. There's now English ivy has become an invasive plant. So those are things that just are too aggressive and that get put on a list. Nobody wants to be on the list. Now, I often joke that if you want a plant that grows really fast, really well, buy something from the invasive species list. But you'll have more of a headache because it'll take over some of your other plants. Native plants, very popular, versus hybrids. Now, or what I love from Dr. Armitage, nativars. Native plants are plants that originally grew here. Okay. Hybrids, there are some hybrids like say, oh, we found this plant in China. We're going to go and propagate it and we're going to sell it to all the people on the East Coast. Sometimes they'll find out that it becomes invasive, but they'll also say, oh, no, it's beautiful. It's so different. How come it's so cool? But I like the plants that are native species that are hybridized so that they have great varieties that make them flower longer. A lot of times the native plant is the original weedy looking plant and you're not going to be happy. So if you go with a native plant that has a great variety, and again, like coneflower, it's a nativar. So go with those species that have a varietal where the science has improved the native version. I think the nativar is a great compromise. If you've got questions about terms that you hear in horticulture jargon, please call the hotline. That number is 609-685-1880.